Good afternoon, Brazil, and welcome to the Tripple J 12 o'clock news.
We're going to send it over to Jenna, who's going to start us off with our first segment about current issues.
New Year fireworks. Brazil welcomes the Olympic New Year. Over 2 million people gathered at the world-famous Copacabana beach in Rio de Janeiro to celebrate the welcoming of the Olympic New Year. Brazil's most popular New Year's Eve show was illuminated by fireworks and people dressed in white to symbolize peace and attract good luck. Tourists from all over the world came to Copacabana for a special New Year's celebration as Rio de Janeiro prepares to host the first Olympic Games in South America in 2016. BHP Billiton reaches 1.55 billion settlement with Brazil over dam collapse. When the dams holding waste from a Brazilian iron ore mine collapsed in November, it triggered a huge harmful mud wave that blanketed villages and polluted a major river flowing into the Atlantic. Billions of gallons of mud and waste were carried out and at least 17 people were killed, leaving hundreds of families homeless, wiping out wildlife, and unleashing other devastation that altogether the government considers to be Brazil's worst environmental disaster ever. The dams and mine were operated by Samarco, a joint venture of international mining giants Vale and BHP Billiton. The Brazilian authorities are seeking about $5 billion from the companies for recovering efforts, but there could be further punishment. On January 14th, federal police accused the mine owners of environmental crimes related to the disaster. Now over to Justin on the streets of Rio de Janeiro with a weather segment on the upcoming possible storm.
Right, I'm good. This is Justin in the streets of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Currently, it is 91 degrees outside, partly cloudy, with a chance of thunderstorms later. Now back to you guys in the studio.
Thanks, Justin, for the upcoming weather. Now we're going to talk about the war against the Zika virus. Brazil is enduring an extraordinary outbreak of microcephaly, a rare birth defect that results in infants being born with abnormally small heads and brains. Microcephaly causes babies to have learning difficulties, among other problems. This condition can be caused by genetic factors or drug and alcohol abuse during pregnancy, as well as mosquitoes. Since last fall, more than 4,000 suspected cases of Zika have been reported. The Zika outbreak is proving to be worse than believed because most cases show no symptoms. Improved testing should allow the country to get a better grip on the public health crisis. Some scientists say that new data suggests that Brazil will have fewer cases of Zika-related microcephaly than originally feared. The country may have overcounted the amount of cases because it initially asked doctors to report all the births of babies with head circumferences 33 centimeters or less, but some of those were just children with small heads. In Brazil, believed to be the country hit hardest by Zika, the outbreak has sparked fear among pregnant women. Brazil is considering easing its abortion laws to allow women with Zika to terminate their pregnancies. Castro said it would be up to Congress to make that change. The government, he said, is sticking with their current laws that makes abortion in the world's largest Roman Catholic country illegal except in the cases of rape and risk to the mother's life. Brazil is planning to fight the Zika virus by zapping millions of male mosquitoes with gamma rays to sterilize them and to stop the spread of virus. This is not proven to help. Now over to Jen talking about the Rio Carnival.
Thanks, Amanda. The world-famous Rio de Janeiro Carnival has a history of over 2 centuries old. Rooted in both pagan and religious festivals, the carnival is celebrated during the 4 days previous to the beginning of Lent. The Rio Carnival has always been the main attraction among tourists. Although Carnival is celebrated in many parts of Brazil, it is Rio that is known as the carnival capital of the world. The annual Mega Bash, famous for lavish and skimpily dressed samba parades and all-night street dancing, is expected to attract as many as 5 million people from all over the world. The carnival celebrations kicked off Saturday on February 7th and went on until February 10th, a Fat Tuesday, with the beginning of Lent on Wednesday. Today, the carnival is the most popular and largest festival in the country, with 4 days of music and dance taking place on the streets, as well as several costume gala balls held in the main hotels of the city. Masks and rich costumes were introduced by the higher classes, who paraded them up and down the city streets in their open carriages. The carnival also resembles parties with drinks, food, and music that carry on throughout the day and into the early hours of the morning. People come out on the streets to dance and sing. This finally concludes in what is known as the Samba Parade. The outbreak of the Zika virus, the political crisis, and failing economy did not stop the locals from attending the country's largest party. This shows strong nationalism for Brazil. There is warnings that the traditional carnival clothes or lack of clothes would accelerate the spread of the virus. Some revelers stood under a mosquito net in order to protect themselves from the virus. Now back to Amanda in the studio.
Wow, Jen, sounds like a lot of fun. Now we're going to send it over to Jenna talking about the Olympics.
The Zika virus is overshadowing the final preparations for the Rio de Janeiro Olympics, even eclipsing concerns over deep budget cuts and severe water pollution. Hundreds of reporters packed Olympic headquarters last Tuesday to hear about ticket sales, venue construction, and a reminder that Friday marked 6 months until the opening of the Games on August 5th. Instead, they got organizers' medical director Dr. João Grugiero and government health officials offering assurances that the Games will be safe from Zika and that only pregnant women are at risk from the mosquito-borne virus, with its epicenter in Brazil. The athletes are not at risk, Grugiero added, promising the mosquito count will fall in August during Brazil's winter. We will have the Summer Games, but for us it's winter time, he said. We will not have an epidemic or pandemic situation. We can't say we won't have any cases during the Games, but we will see this as a minimal risk. Daily routine actions in the area have been set in order to diminish the number of mosquitoes. Now back to Justin in Studio A.
Thanks, Jenna. The sports here in Brazil are top-notch. Of all the sports, soccer is the most famous and decorated. It is the national sport of the country and brings the biggest crowd along with it. Pelé is a legendary sporting figure and an iconic soccer player who during his active years ruled the game to the point of being called the King of Football. To this date, he is widely regarded by football fans, critics, experts, and players, current and retired, as the best player of all time. With his impeccable style, electrifying play, and impressive performance, he scored a total of 1,281 goals in 1,363 games. Another amazing player from Brazil is Neymar. Neymar is a Brazilian footballer and one of the world's leading players who plays for Barcelona FC in the Spanish league. He's a top goal scorer for Brazil in present day and in my opinion is a pretty good-looking guy. The Brazilian national team has won a record 5 FIFA World Cups in 1958, 62, 70, 94, and 2002. They also hosted the World Cup in 1950 and 2014, making it the only South American country to host this event twice. Considering the popularity of the sport, many players achieve celebrity status internationally and have signed multi-million-dollar club contracts, as well as advertisement and endorsement deals. Other popular sports in Brazil include tennis, MMA, Formula One, basketball, rugby, and volleyball. Now over to Jenna with Brazilian cultural cooking.
Hello and welcome to Cultural Cooking. Today we are going to show you how to make brigadeiros. Brigadeiros are bite-sized chocolate sweets, usually referred to as fudge balls, and can be made in a variety of different ways using different ingredients. In Brazil, most birthday parties serve brigadeiros by the cake as a small dessert. Today we are going to show you how to make peanut butter M&M brigadeiros. The ingredients you need are a half a cup of melted butter, 1.5 cups of peanut butter, 2.5 cups of powdered sugar, chocolate chips, and M&Ms. First, you must mix butter, peanut butter, M&Ms, and powdered sugar into a large bowl until well blended. More or less sugar can be added in order to make the mixture more or less dry. Roll the batter into 1-inch balls and freeze for about 20 minutes or until firm. You can microwave your chocolate chips for 60 seconds, stopping every 15 seconds to check and stir. Tip: adding some vegetable shortening can make the chocolate thinner and easier to work with. Remove the brigadeiro from the freezer and dip them into the chocolate. Place them on wax paper and allow them to harden. You can refrigerate if needed. Thank you for joining us today on Cultural Cooking. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Jenna. Those look great. Bring me one. Now let's have a blast from the past. In the 15th century, Portugal imperialized Brazil. When the Portuguese got to Brazil, they gave gifts to the natives to earn their trust. The Portuguese government made the natives convert to Catholicism. This prohibited the natives from performing their own ceremonies. Portugal created colonies in Brazil because of their mass amounts of resources. Brazil had resources like spices, gold, and great agriculture. This was great for Portuguese trade market. The long-term effects of imperialization were that Brazil lost their political and economic independence. Brazilians were also enslaved by the Portuguese. Another long-term effect was the creation of social classes. Many people began settling in Brazil, including people from Portugal. Many cities became full of slaves and slave trading. Thanks for watching and tune in tomorrow on Triple J News.